Do you ever wonder what is intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number? The traditional beliefs, customs, and stories of a community. A community not part of the mainstream, unconventional, peripheral, or extreme. Part of an anthology, a published collection of poems or other pieces of writing. This is Esoteric Lore. I'm your host, Edward Aponte, where I push you to ponder the fringes of folklore. Step right up. Closer. Yes, closer. Don't worry, I've done this before, and I know what you need. I've watched thousands just like you enter this ring believing they were free. And I never raise my voice. I don't have to. I say, you should, and you lean forward. I say, trust me, and you hand me the reins. Marvelous, I dress my commands as concern, my control as care. I tell you, I only want what's best. And you never ask why I'm holding the whip. Look at you, waiting, open, grateful. I don't cage you, I choreograph you. I give you rules so you don't have to feel the ground. Certainty so you don't have to choose. Applause so you forget the cost. And when you stumble, I smile and say, you didn't follow me closely enough. Okay, don't glare like that. I've kept you safe, predictable, approved. Without me, you've had to stand alone. In the quiet, with no script, no crowd, no one to blame. So stay in the ring. Let me decide what's wise. Let me tell you who you are. Because the moment you stop listening, I disappear. Most advice is delivered like a sermon, not a conversation, an installation. It sounds helpful, but it often does something subtle. It places you beneath it. It positions the advisor as the authority, the ringmaster, and you as the project, a performer in the circus we call life. So today we want to argue something simple, almost defiant. Human agency is superior to human advice. Not because advice is always wrong, but because agency is what makes any truth useful. And neuroscience is starting to map the difference between the two. The brain state of sovereignty versus the brain state of submission. The internal sensation of I choose versus I comply. Let's talk about what the research says, and then I'll give you a practice to reclaim agency in real time. The hidden cost of advice. Let's name the problem clearly. A lot of human advice is preachy, personally limiting, subordinating. Advice becomes preachy when it uses control language, like you should, you must, here's what you need to do. That kind of language doesn't just communicate information, it communicates a power relationship. And we have strong evidence across education, health messaging, and behavioral change that controlling or freedom-threatening language tends to trigger psychological reactance, the mind's reflex to resist when it senses autonomy being squeezed. Reactance isn't stubbornness, it's the brain protecting self-authorship. When advice is delivered as control, even good advice can produce the opposite behavior because the nervous system flags it as a threat to freedom. Advice becomes personally limiting when it replaces exploration with conformity. A lot of advice is really someone else's map, stitched together from their temperament, their fears, their trauma, their era. But your life can't be lived by template. And neuroscience has long shown that social influence shapes preferences through reward learning systems, meaning the brain can start tagging popular or approved choices as higher level, even if they aren't aligned with your internal signals. That's the quiet danger. Advice can train you to want what earns approval instead of what expresses truth. Advice becomes subordinating when it positions you as less than. This is the deepest issue. Advice often implies you don't know. I know, so follow. The relational posture matters because agency isn't just a philosophy, it's a measurable brain experience. What agency is in the brain. In neuroscience, the core idea behind agency is called the sense of agency, the feeling that I am the one causing this action and its effects belong to me. Modern reviews describe agency as emerging from the brain comparing internal predictions, what you intended with sensory feedback, what happened. When the match is strong, you feel authorship. When it's weak, you feel detached, pushed, or control. Researchers consistently link agency to a network that includes areas involved in action planning, initiation, monitoring outcomes, integrating body signals, distinguishing me from not me. And here's the key. Agency is not just making choices. Agency is the brain believing your choices are truly yours, which means when advice is delivered in a controlling way, it can reduce agency not by removing options, but by shifting your internal posture into outsourced authorship. Even when you comply, something in you knows that wasn't me. That was me performing. Autonomy versus control. Let's talk about the motivation engine. Now let's connect agency to motivation. One of the most robust frameworks we have is self-determination theory, which shows again and again when people feel autonomy, that's self-initiation, they tend to experience better motivation and well-being than when they feel controlled. And this isn't just fluffy self-advice. It shows up in outcomes across domains. In newer work, examine autonomous supportive versus controlling approaches in the real-world settings. Autonomy supportive communication does something very specific. It gives you choice language, acknowledges your perspective, and returns authority to your inner decision maker. In other words, it strengthens the internal experience of I am the author, while controlling communication does the opposite. It treats you like a mechanism to be steered. And when people are steered too hard, reactance rise, compliance becomes brittle, and motivation becomes dependent on external pressure. So the superiority of agency isn't moral, it's mechanical. Agency builds durable behavioral because it builds ownership. So what do we do with all this? Do we reject advice entirely? No. We reframe advice as raw material, not authority. Here's the sovereign rule. Advice is data. Agency is the decision. Advice can be useful, but only when it remains subordinate to your internal authorship. So let's install a simple filter so you can use this immediately. The agency filter. Next time someone gives you advice, especially preachy advice, run it through these few questions. Does this expand me or compress me? When you imagine following it, do you feel more alive or smaller from this advice? Is this autonomy supportive or control flavored? Does it sound like here are the options, it's up to you, or you should and you must do this or that? Controlling language often provokes reactance for a reason. What would be my version of this? Even if the advice is correct, ask, what's the version I would choose in my own voice? That question is agency medicine, because you're not trying to obey wisdom, you're trying to become wise. Most people are drowning in advice. Podcasts, posts, gurus, friends, family, but the mind doesn't become sovereign by collecting instruction. It becomes sovereign by practicing authorship. Neuroscience calls it a sense of agency, but you already know the feeling. It's the moment you stop asking, what should I do? And you ask, what do I choose and why? Advice can inform you, but only agency can integrate you, because the goal isn't to be guided. The goal is to be awake. As always, I leave you with a poem. Sovereign before advice. They told me what to do before they asked who I was. The words arrived dressed as wisdom, but carried the weight of posture. Chin lifted, finger raised, certainty borrowed from another life. Advice is rarely neutral. It kneels you quietly, not with force, with tone. You should, they said, and something ancient in me tightened. Not rebellion, recognition, because the body knows the difference between guidance and gravity. Advice points outward, agency ignites inward. One teaches obedience to paths already walked, the other demands you to feel the ground and forms beneath your steps. I have followed good advice and felt hollow. I have refused perfect instruction and felt whole. Not because I was right, but because I was present. Agency is not noise. It does not shout. It does not convince. It stands. It asks no permission to means what it feels, to choose what it chooses, to own the consequences without apology. Advice can inform the mind, but agency integrates the soul. One is borrowed sight, the other is vision. And so I no longer ask, what should I do? I ask the harder question, the one no one can answer for me. What am I willing to author? Because sovereignty is not the absence of voices. It is the moment the one voice finally outranks the rest. Mine. If you like this video, please subscribe, share, and give us a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. See you next time.